Hello, Fellow Human. It's time for some plots and schemes from r/prorevenge. Question of the day: have you ever taken revenge on somebody else? Was it something minor and petty, or a serious one? And did you regret it? On to the first story by Just wait, it gets better. Fairly aggressive girlfriend stole my bank account, so I sent her academic career into a nosedive. I'm a senior at a large state university. This happened in the first semester of my freshman year. I was selected for an honors-type program that placed me in a co-ed dorm building with every other student in the program. As a dumb freshman, I rushed into a relationship with a freshman girl who lived right above me. We'll call her Megan. It was convenient for me to date someone who lived so close, but everyone else in our building hated Megan because she talked a lot, and almost exclusively about herself. She bragged often about being a fairly aggressive person, but somehow I overlooked that mild white red flag. Right after Thanksgiving break, at the end of an evening class, I got a call from my mom, who noticed some unusual activity on my checking account. Back then, I had no credit card, so this account/debit card was my only access to my savings while I lived on campus. I rarely needed to buy anything during the semesters, so I was puzzled to find that 104.29 cents had left my bank account over 2 weeks in the form of 6 Grubhub food orders. At this point, I trusted Megan, but I decided to ask her about the money right away. She denied any involvement and suggested that I cancel my debit card. After a really long phone call to the bank, I did just that. Next, I reached out to Grubhub customer service on Twitter. Hey, my card was stolen and used for food orders on these dates. Can I have the receipts? They sent me the first and last receipts, but they had to redact the personal info of the account holder. I say redact in quotes because they just used the Snapchat draw tool, and Megan's name was still clearly visible on both receipts. What is more, the most recent receipt was only 2 hours old. She was probably still eating when I chopped up my debit card. It's worth noting that she and I both had unlimited dining plans paid for by our respective parents, and we lived 500 feet from the nearest dining hall. She didn't need to order food, and she definitely didn't need my money to do it. So I texted her again. I have the receipt from the Grubhub. Are you sure you didn't make those orders? Her reply? Screw you for suspecting me. Fairly aggressive, wouldn't you say? I hatched a plan to collect security camera footage of her picking up the order from that evening. However, by midnight, Megan arrived at my door in tears and confessed to everything. Plus, she admitted to being a serial shoplifter. Exhausted, I sent her away and decided to deal with everything in the morning. By the next day, everyone in our building seemed to know that what was going down, probably because Megan had already begun broadcasting her version of the story. I sent Megan a breakup text and decided that the 104.29 cents was a loss. At least I escaped unscathed, right? Well, less than 2 days later, she entered my room when I wasn't looking. I was sitting at my desk when I noticed her standing silently behind me. Megan, give me my stuff. Where is my stuff? What stuff? Megan, you know? I did not know. She tore through the room looking for something that she refused to identify. Just as quick as she came, she was gone, and I locked the door because obviously this wasn't over yet. Within a minute, she was back. She stood outside my door, knocking and demanding I let her back inside. The knocking quickly got more violent. She started shouting, I know you're ducking in there, and open the mother ducking door. Mind that we lived in this building with students in our program who all know each other, and all of them could hear her. Pretty quickly, Megan was rattling the handle of my door. Next, she began throwing herself at it, shoulder first, trying to break it down. I lived next door to my RA, but judging from the lack of any intervention, he was elsewhere. So, I whipped out my phone and texted him to send backup. Meanwhile, I saw my heavy wooden door bending and buckling. I even heard it crack a bit. My RA was on duty in another building, so he sent 3 of his colleagues to de-escalate the situation. They brought Megan downstairs, where she revealed that the stuff she wanted was just the t-shirt and keychain that she gave me for my birthday. Whatever, I let her have those. I still just wanted this to be over. However, once I shared my story with the resident life staff, they filed university paperwork to place a no-contact order between me and Megan. They also recommended I contact the campus police, who then told me I should get my stolen money back in small claims court. I couldn't even get there without a car or money to pay for an Uber. Sorry, Judge Judy. At the request of the campus police, I also contacted the Title IX office at my school, sending them to the story of everything you've read so far. They were interested, to say the least, although I didn't want any trouble. I just wanted a clean breakup and a fresh start. But a Title IX representative informed me that they were bringing 3 misconduct charges against Megan: theft, threatening, and violent behavior, and inciting an intervention by university staff. The representative asked me to serve as a witness in Megan's disciplinary hearing the next semester. I tentatively agreed right before the representative set the hearing date for February 14th. Valentine's Day! I thought it was a joke, but they really did that. When the day of the hearing finally arrived, the no-contact order was still in effect, but a few of my friends had kept tabs on Megan. For starters, she failed all of her classes in the fall. Someone in my math course confessed that Megan had tried to sleep with him while she was dating with me, and he had to repeatedly tell her no. Even worse, Megan kept telling a twisted version of the whole story to try and turn my friends against me. So when I found out that she had found a new boyfriend, it felt good to know that the V-Day disciplinary hearing ruined whatever evening plans they might have made. I arrived alone at the disciplinary board office, unsure what to expect. The board consisted of grad students, and the hearing was expected to run into the night. Unlike me, Megan did not come alone. She brought both of her parents as character witnesses. That wasn't even a thing here. This wasn't a real courtroom, as you'll see. And that is not all. Megan's parents also paid a lawyer to defend her against the charges. The board knew that was unnecessary, but Megan's parents believed so strongly in their daughter's innocence that they had already paid for this 3-piece suit to make her case. In the name of fairness, the board members offered me a pro bono legal representation, a junior economics major who we'll call Jimmy. Jimmy had already read my account of the events from the fall, and thanks to my screenshots of Grubhub receipts, he said that there was an okay shot of the charges sticking. Then I told him something I'd kept secret for months. When Megan tried to break down my door and whipped out my phone to text my RA, I also filmed the whole thing. Jimmy couldn't get enough of the video. There was Megan kicking and screaming and clearly trying to break into my dorm room. It was all the evidence I needed, and no one saw it coming. In the hearing, when the time came for me to make sure the case against Megan, Jimmy played the video on a big screen in front of everyone. The room went insane. In that instant, I realized that Megan really had convinced everyone I was the liar. In her version of the story, I gave her permission to buy food using my account. She told her parents that she'd ask me politely for her belongings, which I rudely hidden from her in my dorm room. In Megan's story, I was the sociopath trying to ruin her reputation. Before I unveiled the video, it was her word against mine. I still didn't want revenge, even after finding out that Megan tried to cheat on me. But when I saw her parents flipping out at this video, "Why didn't you tell us you did this?" and her lawyer raising hell, "This evidence was not provided in pre-trial disclosure," and a board member standing over him, "Sir, this is not a court of law. Please return to your seat," and him shouting, "Objection!" and her replying, "We don't have objections. This isn't a court of law." And Jimmy, my new best friend, just trying not to laugh out loud. That is when I realized how good revenge can feel when it's fair and deserved. The board found Megan responsible on all 3 charges. My side of the bench recommended university to terminate her housing contact and force her to pay the restitution. Her side recommended only restitution and reprimand. The board compromised. Her family paid back most of the money she stole, because 2 of the 6 orders had the same price, and the lawyer convinced the board I had duplicated an order, and Megan was forced to move into a different dorm building. This probably would have helped her anyway, because every student in our program's building knew everything she'd done and she lied about. They wouldn't speak to her, and no one wanted to be her roommate. And by the time she had to move the buildings, she'd already failed all her courses again. Having paid for her tuition, her unused dining plan, her lawyer, and her restitution, Megan's parents finally pulled her out of the school. Where are they now? Last I heard, Megan returned as a part-time student, but I never saw her again because of the no contact order still stands. I'm now Facebook friends with the guy Megan tried to seduce. Oh, and Jimmy and I connected on LinkedIn. As for me, well, I no longer date fairly aggressive people. TLDR, my ex stole my food, lied about it, tried to break down my door, lured up for a university hearing, got caught by video evidence, lost the support of her parents, lost respect of her friends, and left campus. Wow, they only mostly paid you back $100, but they had to hire a lawyer. Wow. On to the second story by Merc35802. Senior manager gets me fired. I turn things around and get her job and salary, plus see her break down and then let her know exactly how I got my revenge. I was hired by a company as an assistant manager, a job I was well qualified for. The owner is rarely on site as he owns several businesses. The company is run by a GM who hired me, but who works mostly second shift and who I therefore would have a little daily contact with since I was hired for the first shift. I was assigned to Eva for training. Eva was a manager and had been with the company 5 years. I trained with her for a few days and then I was on my own. Though she and I had overlapping shifts and would see each other a few days a week. We were friendly, but not close. After a few months, I was doing well at my job and had even gotten some new procedures adopted to help boost sales. Eva began to act resentful. She would correct me for small things and took any opportunity to remind me that she had trained me. It didn't matter to me. She wasn't my boss. I reported to the GM, so I mostly just ignored her. What I didn't know was that Eva was not just tied with the GM, but they had worked together at another place for 10 years before this one. One day at the shift end, GM asked to talk. Tell me it's not working out. Says that I'm still making mistakes at the 6 months that I shouldn't be. I asked for examples. A few of them were petty matters Eva had mentioned, but most of them were just not true. I tried to argue, but it was clear that I was set up. I decided to reach out to the owner since I had nothing to lose. He was sympathetic, but said he relies on GM to run the business and had to support her decision. Then he mentioned that if things hadn't been so bad between me and Eva, it probably could have been worked out. That is when I knew she was behind me being fired from a job I needed, really liked, and was making great money, and I vowed to get the revenge done. I started searching her online info. In less than an hour, I had uncovered gold thanks to one of those pay services. About 3 months prior, Eva was arrested and charged with the DWI in a neighboring state. The court records showed that she had a hearing coming up in a few weeks. That was enough to get her fired. It affects the professional license she and I had to have as management. Per state law, license holder must report criminal charges to the licensing board, and in the case of a DWI arrest, licenses are typically suspended pending trial. I called the owner and told him what I discovered. It was news to him. I guess since it was out of state, Eva was keeping it secret. Maybe she was hoping to get let off the charges. The next day, the owner called and said Eva was fired. He thanked me for telling him about her DWI, apologized for how I was fired, and offered me Eva's position and salary. He asked me to come in the next morning to meet him and to cover Eva's shift. I accepted. That alone was sweetly satisfying revenge, but what happened next was the icing on the cake. I got to work extra early, met with the owner and GM, and we all agreed to start fresh. Cool. It was still an hour before opening, and I was in the back of the place when I heard the front door chime. When I came out a few minutes later, Eva was there, tears flowing, begging the owner for her job back. She obviously didn't know I was there, because when she saw me, her whole body seized and her shocked expression was priceless. I walked right by her, staring her down with a crappy grin, and went outside. Eva came out a minute later and wouldn't make eye contact. As she walked away, I said, "Good luck on the 23rd. That was her court date." But still, just remember you're still working for the guy who didn't care about you until he needed you bad. On to the third and final story by Moby1 Kenobi 786. How we destroyed our teacher and principal. Apologize in advance if some details are blurry, as this happened almost 14 years ago. Also, this is going to be a long one, so bear with me. I swear the result is worth it. At least it is to me. The beginning, it all started when I, 25 years old male, was 12 years old. My grade 7 teacher, male, 46 at her time, was infamous for being intimidating and, in my opinion, harsh to his students. He was the disciplinarian of the school. He was in charge of keeping track of detentions and announcing who will be sitting every Friday during assembly. We suspected at the time that the reason why he never got fired was either because his students was too scared to report him or because of the fact that the principal was his brother-in-law. Reasons why I hated him? He was constantly making vaguely racist remarks, complaining about the new South Africa, and constantly bringing up how his life was better during the apartheid regime. He is a white guy who was raised on a farm. I always felt like he had an issue with me as a person because I'm practicing Muslim. He would make the class laugh at how funny Muslim women looked with their heads wrapped up. His jokes about Muslim missing out on eating bacon were endless. In fact, he one day purposely stood in front of my desk eating a cheese and bacon panini. He used to often rant about how the school is no longer a pure Christian institution as it once was back in the day. He would say these things and glance at either me, my twin sister, or the black students in the class who practice their own African religions. When it was my birthday, my mom encouraged me to buy him a gift. I spent off my pocket money, which was already limited. My parents didn't believe in allowances to buy him a big slab of chocolate and along a piece of Dorvour's dried sausage. Throughout the day, he would get gifts from the students in his class and others. He would get up from his desk to greet and thank them and then shake their hand. I remember noticing this because I always found it weird when students shook hands with teachers because of how small our hands were compared to theirs. However, when I gave him my gift, all he did was look at me for a second, look away, and nod his head slightly. I remember being thankful for not offering my hand out for him to shake because I thought he might have it ignored in front of the entire class. To say I felt like crap is an understatement. The experience that made me hate him the most happened just before we wrote the second or third term's exams. I was walking with my friends David, fake name, back from the tuck shop during the interval. We took a shortcut between English and Africans kindergarten classes and saw a group of boys huddled together. One of them walked towards us and saw that he had one of those camping multi-tools with the folding knife out and instantly got a fright. He told us, "Give me your stuff before I cut your neck," and then started laughing and walked back to his friends. It was clearly a joke, but David looked close to tears and I had a very bad fright because of what he had done. I told the guy, fake name, Sander, that he's not allowed to have knives at school and that I'm going to tell my teachers. We walked straight to our teacher and when we spoke to him, David burst into tears. We told him what happened and David was sobbing when he said he felt like he was going to die. Our teacher barely looked up from his computer while we were speaking, and when he asked for the guy's name, we told him the name and he said he will deal with it and for us to go out for the interval again. I went home and told my mom who I felt I didn't fully believe at the time. The next day, we saw Sander were basically making fun of him for getting into trouble with our teacher and likely getting expelled at worst or sitting a Saturday detention at best. He laughed back at us and said our teacher just came to his class, asked to speak to him, and told him to never bring it to school again. No detention, no suspension, basically nothing. He still had the knife on him for the rest of the day before. We were so upset and we went back to our teacher and I told him that Sanders said that he didn't get into trouble for having the knife. He gave me the ugliest look as if I was bothering him and coldly said to me that maybe I should fix my late coming problem before I try to get other people in trouble. I would come late 4 or 5 times a month because my mother's car's battery terminals were broken, so battery would run flat and she couldn't afford to have it fixed. She had to put the neighbor's battery in her car and start it and then idle it while she took that battery out and put her own battery back into charge up. My mom taught me the value of always having a number 10 spanner in your car, lol. I felt betrayed by my teacher, the person who was supposed to make us feel safe while we were away from our home. When I spoke to my friends about it, they told me Sander was actually the principal's son, meaning that he was my teacher's nephew. I decided to take the opportunity to speak to my friends about getting evidence that our teacher is treating students unfairly. 3 of my 4 close friends had camera phones, and I sat the far left corner, and one of my friends sat in the opposite corner by door. Our other friend sat in the middle, and the last friend was right at the back of the class by the window on the left. One thing about our teacher, he did not give a duck about where we sat as long as we answered him when he had done roll call and didn't bother anyone when we swapped seats. We came to an agreement that whenever our teacher would sound like we was going to say something vaguely racist or Islamophobic, we would all discreetly take videos of him. Any private conversation we had with him was voice recorded on our phones. We caught him on camera telling a really racist joke about black people and saying that Hindus must have a lot of problems since they have so many gods. We caught him saying a lot of bad things, but a lot slipped through our fingers because we weren't fast enough. It was extremely difficult to keep our friend group motivated to record him and not to tell anyone else about it. It was especially difficult because at the time I had a hand-me-down Samsung D900, which was seen as an expensive phone at the time. My mom prohibited me from taking it to school. She instead bought a cheap R79 $5 phone for us that could only make calls and send SMS. This was in case she needed to reach us in an emergency. I caught several times sneaking my camera phone to school. My biggest mess up at school when my mom phoned me on my Samsung and I answered it. Big oof, but I was a dumb butt. After I think a month, we decided that we couldn't let it go any further. One of our friends was a black guy named Tatenda, fake name. Tatenda was a problem child. His mom died when he was 4 and his dad was an alcoholic. He was raised mostly by his uncle, who up until today I think was a pimp. He used to act out at school because of undiagnosed ADHD. His dad and uncle didn't believe in learning disabilities and always assumed he was just lazy and badly behaved. Tatenda especially got onto our teacher's nerves because not only he was black, but because he would bring broken calculators from home and take them apart during class. One day, our teacher told him to clear his desk and throw away the bits of plastic and calculator crap. He ignored the teacher. The teacher then started screaming at him, and Tatenda done the logical thing an 12 years or 13 years old would do in such situation. He mockingly put 2 pencils into his ears. Our teacher lost his crap, grabbed Tatenda, and threw him against the door. The narrow window pane cracked, and Tatenda's head was bleeding. He told us he was fine during interval afterwards, and we put money together to buy him a Sprite. I almost cried when my friend who sat way behind me said he got the whole thing on camera. We didn't even trust that the whole class testimony would get him into trouble. We decided that enough was enough. Now for the revenge. First, we showed the videos to Tatenda's uncle, who showed it to his father. Then I showed my mom all other videos and recordings. She lost her mind. One of my friends sent to all of his older sister who had a Facebook account, and she posted it there and tagged the school and many parents as she knew. It blew up. Parents and people from around the province phoned the school demanding answers as to what it is going to happen to our teacher. He was immediately suspended. There were rumors circulating that he had to go into hiding because Tatenda's uncle and his friends were looking to take him down. I even met Tatenda's dad for the first time in weeks after the whole thing exploded. He liked to joke that his dad sobered up especially for this, lol. The principal pulled Sander out of the school. We never saw him again. My mom told me an investigation was launched against the school because of the improper handling of the misconduct complaints. If I remember correctly, 3 English kids in my class alone spoke out against the teachers dismissing their complaints of misconducts of African kids. We were a mostly white Africans speaking school with 3 African classes but only 1 English class per grade. They called us Souties, which was a short to Saupiel, which literally translates as salty man part. It's a derogatory term for English-speaking white South Africans. It means your one leg is in South Africa and your other leg is in England, so your potato is hanging in the ocean. We saw only our teacher once after he suspended. He looked badly beaten up and was accompanied by a policeman and 2 other male teachers so he could gather the rest of his stuff from his class, but it didn't end there. Because so many kids needed the evidence that they were being mistreated and nothing was done because of it, the CCTV footage was brought up. My friend's mother, who was part of the school's governing body at the time, told us a few years ago that when they reviewed the footage, it became apparent that the principal was having an affair with one of the grade 2 teachers. He could be seen grabbing her butt at the furthest point away from the camera. They slipped up a few times and kissed in clear view of the camera, but I guess once you're surrounded by the cameras every day at work, you forget that they're there. It was very apparent that sometimes they thought they couldn't be seen. My mom's friend's sisters, basically my aunt, sells Tupperware, and one of the regular customers and close friends is the principal's ex-wife. Not only did she leave him, but they were not married in the community of property due to the prenup agreement. The house they lived in was in her name since before marriage, so she effectively made him homeless because none of his family wanted to take him in. He ran into severe debts from staying in the guest house and burned many bridges from overstaying his welcome at friends. As for my teachers, his reputation was destination docked. He served jail time, don't know for how long, and eventually left the country because it seemed everyone knew his face from the media attention he received. The reason I made this post, I was never going to tell this story on Reddit, as I've told it over and over through the years since primary school, but I felt I had to because of what I experienced at the beginning of this year. My family is a part of a non-profit organization that has feeding schemes all over the countries. The last Friday feed of February, I'm standing security as I usually do since we're a few volunteers and there's many homeless people and most are on drugs and can get violent. I'm walking down the line to make sure there are no fights or anything that could start a riot, and I see a familiar face. My old principal is standing in the line, waiting for a bowl of stew and bread with absolutely no idea who's standing beside him. Obviously, he wouldn't have recognized me, but I never forgot his face. I'm not gonna lie, I cried quite a bit behind my sunglasses. Seeing him brought back the feelings I had when I was 12 years old in 7th grade, trying absolutely every excuse in the book to not have to go to school and being mistreated by my teacher. So yeah, for those of you who are still reading, this is the end of how my friends and I destroyed the lives of my teachers and principal. If you got this far and feeling depressed, worthless, or less than your peers, I love you. I appreciate you, and you are seriously ducking awesome. Bye-bye. Wow, what a read. I think this might even be a r/nuclear revenge territory. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.